So let's continue with the next chapter on these tutorials, and this chapter is about creating a navigation hierarchy. So for now you have learned how to create a SwiftUI view, but how do you navigate between them? So let's remember that right now we have this list and we have another screen done, but we cannot switch between them. So for now we need to basically create a navigation hierarchy. We start at the list screen, which were here, and then we present the detail view, which is what we cannot do yet. And you will push the timer view to the top of the navigation stack. Download the starter project. Again, as I always say, we expect you to start with the starter project, but I prefer to continue from the work we have done before. So section 1, set up the navigation. From the navigation view container view, you can traverse a stack of views in the hierarchy. You will set up the navigation by wrapping your root view in the main app file. So we're gonna be touching this file. And let's see. So we need to wrap the view in a navigation view. Okay. So we can put a navigation view here. And we can just move this inside. Step 1 completed. Now step 2. In a Scrum view, Swift embed the Scrum view previews in navigation view. Adding in the navigation view displays navigation elements like the title, and for now the preview displays padding for navigation. Okay. So the point here is that we're going to be working with this file on its own. So it's kind of useful to basically create a fake kind of environment that mimics the real one. And we're going to have navigation on the real application, so it's interesting to see here also the navigation structure. Okay, so now we add a navigation link, passing the text Scrum title as the destination in the initializer. So we make a navigation link, basically surrounding the card. Here, instead of just displaying a card, we display a navigation link. And as destination, we just make a text with a Scrum title. And we put all of this here. So the destination presents a single view in the navigation hierarchy when the user interacts with an element. Each row pushes to an individual destination. The text view acts as a placeholder until you create. So it's super interesting because basically the destination, like what you open, it's what you pass here. The idea is that here you pass basically the next thing on your entire hierarchy, okay? Which is something complex and big, whole screen, even entire flow. But it's super interesting that to start with, you can just pass a text. You don't have to create a separate file for a view. You don't have to create a new view type or anything. You just pass a text and you're done. It's quite interesting to see how flexible it is, especially like you can go step by step. You know, we don't have to stop now and create an entire view. We can just do it by creating a text, passing it, and that's it. So it's super flexible and makes it very nice to iterate super quickly. So as you can see, it's at the disclosure indicator to indicate that this row, now it's tappable and it's gonna navigate into another screen, which is a default pattern on iOS. It's super nice that SwiftUI automatically does that for us. So for the step 4, we move the list background modifier to the navigation link. Okay, I mean, yes, you need to move this because that's kind of like the cell, you know, so it would be nice to have an explanation. So this doesn't work because the cell, it's the view that it's directly inside here. And this basically indicates to that cell, because at the end of the day, this is baked by UIKit. So it's indicated that that UI table view cell, that its background view is this with this color and stuff like that. But if you do it here, it's not a cell. So it doesn't know how to do it. That's why we don't have a color here. So yeah, we need to move this, but it will be nice if the tutorial explained a little bit more, because I think it's a nice point when we're doing simple things to kind of elaborate a little bit on how things work, you know. So now we can add a navigation title to display daily scrums. Notice that you add the navigation title to the list. The child view can affect the appearance of the navigation title using modifiers, okay? But we don't know anything about modifiers yet, so we know navigation title. Yeah, so basically this is what it's telling us, that even if we are here and we are not doing anything with the navigation, remember that we did the navigation at this level. We're not adding the title at this level, we're adding it at this one. So it's kind of interesting that it's, again, this is kind of like the first aspect that still it doesn't clearly explain how it works or why, but this is kind of the first moment where we start seeing SwiftUI powerful, basically way of sharing, of modifiers affecting the hierarchy up and down. You know, we are here on the child of the navigation, and by setting up this modifier, we're affecting our parent, and the navigation now has this title here. So it would be nice, again, if they took this opportunity to explain it a little bit, but whatever. Now we want to add a trailing navigation bar item that displays the plus icon. Pass an empty action for now, but you will revisit this view later tutorial and you create a screen for adding new scrums. Okay. So here we have navi bar items, and we want to put trailing items, and we want to put a button that has an action that doesn't do anything, and it has an image with a system name. Remember that the system name it's using SF symbols, and we add a plus. And if you have seen, this has modified the way this looks. Let's see if they explain why. Run your app in a live preview and verify that you can navigate from the row to the discrimination to the disclosure button. Swift automatically adds the back button. Yeah, okay. So we can run this, and we will see now how just by adding these modifiers, we actually created a whole hierarchy, navigation hierarchy on our application. So you can click here, and it opens the app dep, which is basically the view that we are passing as the destination. Very nice. And this doesn't do anything because we have not done anything with it yet. Super nice. I would still like for them to explain why it changed the UI just by doing this. Like you can see it when you do this, and we resume the preview. You see, we add these navigation items here, and they change how things look on the list. It would be nice to have an explanation. Let's see if they explain something. One nice video. Perfect. That's nice. I think it's the first time I see one of these videos. I don't think they explain why that changed. Kind of unfortunate, but whatever. So section 2, create the detail view. In a hierarchical app, you navigate from a high-level view to a detailed view so that you can manipulate specific data elements. In this section, you create the Scrum detail view. Fine. Like, let's remember on iOS, we have these kind of two types of applications. You have a hierarchical application that starts from a root and you navigate through the hierarchy like this. Or you have another kind of navigation where you have a tab view with different sections that you can directly access to without having to drill down. You know, it's different kinds, or different applications have different UX. You need to pick which one is more appropriate for your use case. So now let's create a new file. So now we're going to be making this detail view. So let's go here and let's make a detail view. here. Okay. And we add the Scrum constant, in this case only 1, so not an array. But it is daily Scrum, yes. Daily Scrum. And as always, like you see the patterns here, we need to basically update the preview to fix the initialization. And as before, because we want to mimic a real environment as much as possible, so our previews kind of make sense. So we wrap this navigation view. And if we run now, we will see how we have a navigation view. But the difference is that we don't see any back buttons or stuff like that. Even if in our real app, what we're expecting is to see this kind of context. The fact that you are inside and pushed in part of the hierarchy. We don't see that yet. So now in section 3, we add the visual components to the detail view. So let's see how complex we can make this. Now that you have a skeleton of the detail view, you will add the visual components to complete it. Complete the detail view displays the name of the Scrum, the meeting duration, the card color, and the attendee list. So let's start. So to make it nicer, let's go detail view. So we replace this with a detail view. And we pass here the Scrum object. And now if we run, we will see that we can access the view that we are modifying now. Now we can go here and start working on this screen. To replace the text with a list to display meeting details. Okay. The list. We will display static subviews in a single column with rows. In the next section of the tutorial, you will dynamically build lists. That's super cool and super interesting that they show it basically in this tutorial, because it's one of the biggest kind of differences and advantages of using SwiftUI versus the old UIKit style of doing things with table view. And it's that if you use UI table view on UIKit, you need to deal with all the complexity of that, of data sources and all that stuff. And that API is designed for dynamic things, which is pain in the ass when you want to build simple screens that follow a list in a scroll view and everything, but they're not dynamic. And the nice thing about the list in SwiftUI is that you can mix both content types. You can add static things and dynamic things on the same list with the same API, and everything is the same. So it's a super nice way of building this kind of complex and long views with mixed content with the same API, and it's super nice, super nice. So we add the section of the header meeting info. Okay. So we add the section header. And the content, what do we add? Sorry, yeah, the header needs to be not a string, but a view, which is a text. And we see the typical iOS header in lists. Sections create visual distinctions with your list. They help you chunk content and establish groups in information hierarchy on the list. Nice. Now you can add a label. Label to describe the result is a trigger to navigate to the meeting view. Okay. So we basically add the label, and let's remember a label has a title and an image. So we say start meeting, and here the image name is timer. There we go. And we can make an exit label. I'm gonna just copy. We can make an accessibility label, which doesn't change anything visually, but helps for accessibility purposes. after the appearance of the label by adding a font headline. So we can see how we can do font headline. It's gonna make a little bigger, bolder. And now we can change the foreground color to make it the accent color, which kind of indicates that this is something clickable. See, because in the interactive element, we should make the color be the accent color, not the dark as always. Now you create an h tag and a label with the clock icon for meeting length and add an accessibility label. So now we make an h tag and we do the label. We can just copy this because this it's just writing and it's quite long and it's kind of repetitive what we're doing. It's not like we're doing something new. So I think it's fine if we just copy this. So we're adding a label, again with a string and a system image. And here we have the meeting length. And here we add basically a spacer to separate things, like because this is an h tag, so we're adding things to separate it horizontally. And on the trailing side, now we want to add this text with a string interpolation to get the length in minutes from the scrum. So we should see, there you go, this on the trailing side. And now as another cell, like let's remember that we're inside a section. So this is a section. And then we have a label, which because it's a direct child of the section, we can interpret as a cell in the list. So one of the items in the list, and this is an h tag. So this itself, in this case, the label was the item in the list. This h tag is now the label in the list, and inside the h tag we have different views. So you can see how they are separated cells. In one case we have a label directly, in the other case we have an h tag directly. So you can see how things differ based on how the hierarchy of views that you write. And now we add another h tag with a label that basically gives us the color. That's nice that they have this. Okay. But yeah, I was gonna say it would be nice if we could show the color somehow, right? So we do again the same trick. We put a spacer. So an h tag, if you put a spacer between two elements, it basically splits the amount of space between the two and makes this space here between them. If these elements grow, the spacer, of course, gets starting smaller until at the end the spacer is zero, and kind of they touch between themselves, I guess. And here we just do a circle, basically. So we put a circle here with a check mark. And now we modify the color of this image that we added. So to modify the color, it's basically modifying the color of a text, because these kind of system images behave like text. So we can get the Scrum color. And you can see that the color changed. And now, as we did on I think one of the first parts of the tutorial, was we ignore the accessibility elements of all of these, because we want to read this as one thing. Or I guess they don't even want to do that. They just want to ignore it because, well, I imagine talking about colors and stuff like that, so okay, it's not that really relevant when you are on VoiceOver. And now we go into the list and we tell this list that should be list style, and this allows us to change the styles, and we use the inset group list style, which hopefully Swift adds an improvement that I think it's on the evolution, where it's gonna make it easier to say here grouped list style or something like that, you know. Just that can be done now, but it's so convoluted and it's so hard for people to find that they don't do it. I think it was part of the betas, but they got rid of it. And that means that you just need to know these types, which is kind of one of the worst parts of the Swift UI kind of syntax right now, but hopefully gets better soon. And we can see how we completely change the style of the list just by adding this line. You can see how if we don't put this line, by default it uses the normal list style, and this changes into an inside grouped list. Perfect. Section 4. So now we iterate through attendees. So here we will add the list of attendees, and we'll learn about how to use for each to iterate through the list of attendees and sample data. So this is the part where we are going to be adding dynamic data at the same time that we're adding static data, which is the cool part. So we add a new section for attendees. So same as before. We just need to go here and add a new section. I like to kind of represent visually with spacing kind of the UI that I want to see. So that's why I'm leaving a space in there. And now instead of adding just data directly here, we do like before, and we add a for each with data for the Scrum attendees. And we can use the key path for self because it's a string, and a string is itself identifiable because the string itself is kind of an identifier. So we can use that. I guess this is an attendee. Yeah. What the hell? There you go. And now the question is, what do we display? So we want to display an attendee, which again is just a name, so we can think of it as this is the name of the person, and we display the nice person icon. That's cool. And again, we can't forget to improve a little bit the accessibility, because by default we will not read this properly, and instead we want to say that this is a person and it's the name of the person. Otherwise you wouldn't see person anyway. Like, I guess the system image, maybe it will be read as a person, but it's gonna read like an icon or something like that. So it's not really nice. Much better to provide the explicitly label and value yourself. And now basically it's looking good. We have a detail for the Scrum meeting, which is pretty nice. Pretty nice. I guess personally I will use the color to tint everything instead of this blue. Whatever. So now your detail screen is complete. You will create a navigation hierarchy to transition between the screens. Cool. So recall that in Scrum's view, you set the destination in the navigation link to detail. Now we will finish setting the navigation hierarchy from detail view. Okay, so we're on detail view, right? Yes. So wrap the start meeting label with a navigation link that sets meeting view as the destination. So start meeting, yes, this guy. Now it's a navigation link. Now we put this inside. And you will have a destination of that view that I already forgot about it because it was the first thing that we did. Meeting view, yes. Meeting view. Cool. And as you can see, it already puts a disclosure. Perfect. And now display the Scrum title, but setting the navigation on the list. So that's here. So you see that we are faking a navigation here, but there is no title, and that's exactly because we haven't set the title of this view. And when you do this, you see it shows up like this, like with a huge header, but that's again because we don't have the context. Like we're just saying this in a navigation view, but it doesn't know that in reality it's gonna be a push, it's gonna be a child of a parent. So if we run it in a simulator, we will see how that actually it's reflected. You see that instead of showing design here without anything, it shows us daily scrums here. And now if we click start meeting, we have that prototype that we did at the start of the project. So we have our hierarchy built correctly. And you see that the color reflects the proper color. The data in this list is built properly from the list. We have 10 here, we have 5 here. You can see that everything works as expected with data, fake data that we have statically here, but it works. So SwiftUI automatically includes the animations when pushing and popping from the navigation tab. Yeah, perfect. Now you have created a navigation hierarchy to transition between screens. How do you move data between screens? And that's where the interesting and tricky parts of making an application show up. In the next tutorials, you will learn about editing, updating, and passing data through your navigation stack. This is super interesting, and I want to see how kind of they explain it. Which code snippet places the app main UI inside a navigation stack? No, because this is UI kit. No, it's not a navigation group, it's a navigation view. Which code snippet adds the detail view to the navigation stack? Detail view to navigation stack. You mean as destination? Yeah. This one. This one. Correct. And which code snippet displays the navigation title in the navigation view? So as we said, you do modify these things from the children. So not in this one. Not in this one, but this one, because you put the title on the list. Perfect. So that's it for this part of the tutorial. Again, we are slowly building and seeing how Apple explains these things. There have been a couple of comments where I will probably have liked to see them kind of explain a little bit more of the why of things, but working really well. The navigation hasn't been super difficult. It will be maybe nice if they explain some gotchas that can happen with this, was using navigation in this manner, or that they probably suggested that you can also use the tab view or other styles of navigation just to kind of mention things that people can deal around on their own. But for now, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So the next part is about creating the edit view, and we're gonna see how data moves between views.